Hello, my dears. Welcome again to a new episode of the podcast Autism on 360 Degrees. Irini Hara streaming again from Oslo, Norway. Today I have a special guest, Susanne Hadland. She is a 53 years old woman and mother of three daughters, born and grown up in Germany. After she finished her master's studies in geophysics, she emigrated to Norway in 1997, marrying a German-Norwegian man. And she worked for 70 years in the oil business as geophysicist and petrophysicist. But then life presented her with a challenge, a severely disabled daughter that now is 16 years old. So she decided to resign this job and to take care of her child, to be able to train and give her all assistance full time. Welcome, Suzanne. I'm very happy that you agreed to be my guest today. And please, if you would like to add anything else beyond what I already spoke about in the introduction, you are free to do so. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for the introduction. As you mentioned, I got a severely disabled child 16 years ago. Since 3 years, we know the reason. It is a genetic disorder called SYNGAP1. It's a very rare disorder. Only 10 people in Norway have this disease, and worldwide there are only 1,300 people diagnosed. But that doesn't mean that it's a very new diagnosis. I think the first patient was diagnosed in 2009. That was 1 year after my daughter was born. And although we did all genetic testing and MRTs and metabolic testing when she was 2 to 3 years old, they couldn't find this disease. But now, since genetic testing has improved, they finally found it, and now worldwide more and more children get diagnosed. But people suggest on this field that probably 1% of all intellectual disabilities are caused by this syndrome, SYNGAP1, which is until now very unknown.
How does it manifest?
It has, most people with SYNGAP have severe learning disabilities and intellectual disability, severe autism, with severe challenging behaviors. They have, it's a very complex syndrome because all categories in life are affected, like sleep, food intake, as I said, behavior, speech. Over 2/3 of the SYNGAP1 patients have no speech at all. Yeah, they have motor issues. The first signs of SYNGAP are probably in the baby phase, in the first 3 months, that they won't meet their milestones, like rolling over or holding their head. Our daughter, for example, also had failure to thrive. Already in the first weeks, we saw that she wouldn't get enough breast milk when I gave her food, and she couldn't hold her head. She didn't roll over, and yeah. So, and then at around the age of 2, mostly in that age, they develop epilepsy. It is mostly an atypical absence epilepsy. That means it's an eye rolling, especially in food situations. And it's also some children get also more severe seizure signs later in life. And it's difficult to treat both the seizures but also the behaviors. I would say the most severe signs for SYNGAP1 are the lack of communication, and the behavior issues, which means they have self-injurious behavior, and some would also show aggression towards other children or adults.
I suppose this was a difficult moment for you. And I'm not sure about what the healthcare system advised you at the beginning, but how uh, how did you approach this new situation for you as a parent? What were your first thoughts and actions about this situation?
Well, as I mentioned before, the real reason that it is SYNGAP 1 we know since only 3 years. So in the beginning, we thought, of course, it's only developmental delay. And also, we were not really taken serious from the Norwegian health system that something is wrong with our daughter because she didn't show any signs of dysmorphic feature in her face or in her body or something. She looks very normal.
Mm,
And the nurse, the health nurse who always investigated her and looked at her, said, "Oh, she's smiling so nice. There's nothing wrong with her. She's just a little bit late."
mm,
And it was in the beginning, of course, I hope that this is the truth. And I tried to calm myself down. I had already two daughters who were totally fine. And I knew, of course, what babies should be able to do at certain ages. And I was also in a baby group where I could see after 3, 4, 5, 6 months that all the babies they developed forward. They rolled over, they started to crawl and creep. And my baby would still just lay on her back and do nothing. And she also had little eye contact, and she didn't seem to be really in our world.
mm,
And and also when I tried to pull her up with her arms, her head would always bang backwards. That means she really had not a good head control.
mm,
But nobody in this health station where we always went said, no, this is very serious. So I really had to ask I want to have a prescription for the physiotherapist.
mm,
And they said, "Oh no, you don't need that. It will be fine.
mm,
She's just a bit delayed." And at the age of after we came home from summer holidays, at the age of 9 months, and then I finally said, "No, now I want to have, now I want to go to the physiotherapist. Now you have to give it to me."
mm,
Then she said, "Yeah, yeah, but the other mothers in your baby group, they all get a physiotherapist already." So I was the only one who didn't get anything, although had asked for months. And I guess I was the only one with a really severe disabled baby. All the others had just small problems, smaller problems.
mm.
So the physiotherapist in our community was booked, fully booked. So I had to go to another town. Um, and then I only got 30 minutes every other week. And my baby was at that point 10 months and still could not roll over, while other babies in the baby group would already start to walk or at least pull up and try to walk. And it was such a big difference, not only physically, but also in the cognition. The other babies probably would already say mama or papa or something, or babble at least. And she was more or less as interested in everything, even in toys. So so I went to this physiotherapist, and she showed me an exercise, and she told me to do that 3 times a day.
Mm,
And of course, I did it more than 3 times a day. I did it 100 times a day. And after 5 days, she could roll over.
mm.
So I rang this physiotherapist and said, "You know what? She has rolled over now. Isn't that great?" And they said, "Yeah, that's great." And I asked him, "What's the next step? What can I do?" And she said, "Well, in 10 days, we see each other again, and then I can show you the next thing." And I was so frustrated because I wanted to continue, but I needed somebody to show me what to do because I've never dealt with disabled people or children before, so I had no clue what to do,
Exactly.
what would be next. So yeah, that was the start when I recognized that probably the health system in Norway is not so great as I thought. Because until that point, we never, I mean, we had two healthy children and everything was fine.
Yes.
So we never really had a problem with the system, with the struggles, we were very satisfied.
Yes. The struggle usually comes when you're challenged with something that they don't know how to handle either.
Yeah.
Yes. So I know from another testimonial that you gave in a webinar that you tried many different methods.
Hmm.
Can you just, of course, you don't need now to speak about all of them, but just let us know how you got to them and who helped you in this path, because sometimes you actually need guidance. Of course, we can also search by ourselves, as I also did, because my son also has a diagnosis of a highly functional type of autism. So he has challenges, but not so severe as your daughter's. But still, he is not progressing in a, let's say, in a normal rhythm with his learning abilities and some autonomy functions. And I somehow had to handle this by myself because from my experience, when I ask at school or even at the doctor, well, give me some ideas or some methods or send me some specialists, they don't know what to recommend. And so I think it's important that you speak about how actually you got to connect with people that at least show you that there is something else out there and you can try and see if it works, or if not, search for more.
Hmm. Well, when my daughter was born 2008 in November, and at that time there was not or at least we had not Facebook and we had no smartphone. Or Google already existed, and I searched a lot. What could be the reason of her symptoms? What could help? And I searched, first I only searched German websites for special needs because I'm German, but there were also no Norwegian sites. So, and then by chance, I learned about the book What to Do About Your Brain Injured Child by Glenn Doman, written by Glenn Doman, and I ordered it. And I read it and I thought, wow, that's very good. But I wasn't clear over that. Actually, it was possible to drive to travel to the Doman Institute or to do the Doman method because nobody told me. And then by chance, I read in a magazine a story, a home story of a family who trained the Doman method. And there I got an internet, a website at a contact. So I contacted them because also in this article was written that Norway would fund this. It was a Norwegian family who would who wrote about their life story in a Norwegian magazine.
Hmm.
That's how I came into contact with the possibility of that Norway actually funds 4 different training methods.
And which
Uh,
are these? Can you mention them?
2 of them are the Doman method in different institutes. It's one in the original Doman institutes, nowadays also in Doman International and the Family Hope Center. They are all doing the Doman method. And then it's called ABR. It's a Russian physicist who found that method. And it is about to improve the fascias in your body. And when you improve the fascias, you would also improve the movement.
Mhm.
Um, It's called ABR. It's an abbreviation. I'm not familiar now what it does mean. And
Yes.
there was a Ukrainian method, which I can't express the word, but you can Google it. It's everything goes under paragraph 5, line 22. This is it's about um, foreign training methods
Mm.
for disabled children.
That the state can cover the expense for it?
Yeah.
Oh,
Mhm. Yeah.
yes. Okay, this is very good information. And you also told me that you tried other methods, but to a certain extent, you decided that you want to stick with this because it gave more results for your case.
Yeah, I guess the Doman method is the basis for our training, for our daily life. Because it's a holistic program. It starts with a diet and goes up to the to physical training, but also cognitive training, school, and communication. But we had always added also some different things. Um, yeah, to improve certain areas. So for example, we added tomatis training for a while. It is a listening program. It's also in available in Norway, but we went to Germany. Um, it improves somehow the way you can listen and then probably produce better speech. And we traveled to Denmark and did some courses in the Anat Baniel method.
Mm-hmm.
And we also tried a year ABR, this method I mentioned. And the best method, which we discovered also by chance, is a method from Hungary. It's TSMT. We traveled one time to Budapest, but we had the luck that one of the therapists is working in Stavanger. And this training is it's about 1 to 2 hours per day. It's very fun because it's a lot of singing and it stimulates all senses in a way that they would use swings or a skateboard or big gymnastic ball. And it really improved also the ability for our daughter to speak, to produce speech in a way, because she didn't speak at all until she was 9 years old.
Yeah.
And but also to imitate. I mean, she couldn't throw a ball or
Mm.
something because she would not imitate movements.
Mm.
Everything is very hard for her to learn. So it's a very she has a severe learning disability.
Mm.
Um, yeah. So what I liked about that method, the Hungarian method, it totally fit into the Doman method because a lot of stuff from the Doman method is also it's about gymnastics, rolling over, doing Norwegian krokeballe and so on. And what I like also with the Doman method is that it is every day, or we train it only from Monday to Friday, and the same with this other method. But if you train something every day, then you're changing the brain. But if you have only once per week something, then it won't change a lot.
Yes. You have to do it continuously.
Yeah.
And you take the break for the weekend, but then the other days you apply the method. How many hours a day you have to dedicate to this kind of training?
It's about 6 hours per day from Monday to Friday. So
Wow.
with of course breaks in between. So we do a lot of school stuff uh, besides the Doman training, like
Like
learning to write and type and read, but also learning how to use scissors, for example, um, to draw.
yeah, I
Yeah.
see. And from all these years that you applied probably the method and also searching for others, which are the major breakthroughs that your daughter achieved?
Well, I would say the first breakthrough was the health.
Mm.
Um, when we started the Doman training, she was 4 years old.
Mhm.
At that point, she only drank from a baby bottle milk.
Mm.
I prepared a certain um, oat milk for her that she would get more nutrition. But she was already it was already suggested that she would get a pack because her food intake was too bad, and she was very thin and would not grow properly. And then she had seizures. She developed seizures at the age of 3. She had 100 seizures per day when we finally got medication. But the medication again, in the beginning, they held very good, but then they had also side effects. So her walking would be much worse. At that point, at 4 years, she could walk, but not very good, unbalanced. But the medicine would even make her more imbalanced. It's called ataxia. And also, she lost abilities, like she had already learned some signs to communicate, and then she wouldn't do that any longer. She seemed to be more in her own world, like becoming more autistic. So after 2 years of it on the Doman method, we already could take her off the medication without, and she had no seizures any longer. And before she had 100 seizures per day, I was not able to touch her without that she would get a seizure with her eyes, and she already started to have some focal seizures too. So health was the first thing, something which you can also measure. Normally, she would not be seizure free with this syndrome. Then now she's eating everything, and she's on a very, very healthy diet. She's gluten free, milk free, and sugar free. And I cook everything by my own, so there's no processed food in it. It's very rarely that she gets processed food. Like a treat, when we have a doctor appointment, we go to McDonald's, but she
Yeah,
only gets French fries then,
is
something
what
like
I do
that.
with my son. Once a week, he gets a
Yeah.
treat and he loves it.
Yeah. Um, so, and then sleep-wise, she slept very badly when she was small. So she would wake up at 2 o'clock in the night and would be awake until 4 o'clock. And now she sleeps through the night. Although I must admit, I'm co-sleeping with her. But before I did co-sleeping, and she still would be awake. So I would have to go into the kitchen and be very quiet so that the other children would not wake up. And I would make her some egg until she got tired again. I could bring her to bed again. And everything, and she was not quiet. She was screaming so much when she was little. And she has a lot of self-injurious behavior. And she still has it too, but it's on a it's only very rarely that it happens. And we know also then the reasons so that we can be careful when it could happen. And she doesn't take any medication at all. So she doesn't take medication for sleep or for seizures or also for constipation. She was constipated for a long, long time. And now, since we even more improved the diet with more vegetables, so she has not this problem any longer. And the most important thing is also she's not taking any antipsychotic medication. A lot of teenagers with SYNGAP have to take it because their behavior is very severe. So luckily, at the moment, we don't need to take that.
Yeah.
So this is the greatest win, actually, the health. And the other thing is speech. So she is able to speak, although she was nonverbal, I'd say, until she was 8, 9 years old. She can speak in 3 languages.
Oh.
Mainly spontaneously, she speaks most in her mother tongue, which is German, and then she can speak up to 5 word sentences. Although although speech is her biggest challenge. So her communication is more about what she wants, to communicate her needs. It's not so much like as that she wants to tell me something,
Yeah. I have the same situation
her
with my
thoughts or
son.
something.
My son is also he understands a lot in 3 languages too, Romanian and Norwegian and English. But about expressing himself, it's mainly when he wants something. and I really have to push a lot for him if I want more information about what's happening at school. He's very much now, as he's also growing into puberty, about no, 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 he doesn't want this, he doesn't want that. But he would eventually be able to speak, but most of the time he doesn't want also.
Mm.
So I can relate with this part.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's difficult because you would like to know what's happening
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's
themselves, you know.
yeah. Therefore, I
But
think it's the biggest challenge for us
yes, we
that we
have to
don't
get,
really know what's going on in her mind. Or yeah.
yeah, exactly. Um, this is difficult for probably any parent if should go through this. It's quite difficult. Do you have any system of support for yourself as a parent, as a woman, beyond the family that I suppose is supporting, but like a community or maybe a therapist or someone that supports you also through session of
Um,
I
I
don't
mean, we are in different disability clubs, or say how to say that in English, where parents meet on certain occasions. So then we can exchange experiences, or we meet them on appointments, like she's going to different sport things or riding or music therapy. There you would meet other parents. But else, we don't have support. We don't have any family here in Norway, and I've gone to a psychologist a few years ago. Yeah, um, but we had to pay that by our own
of course
because we were on the waiting list and
private.
it took too much time.
Yeah. And what would be your desire? What you would like to see that is happening also more from the healthcare system or from the educational? Because you said you are doing homeschooling, so you never ponder actually to ask to the school to create conditions for her to access
Mm.
normal education or a special education system.
Um, I think from the system in general, I would like that they would be more open to other methods. And it is not so easy to get some, even if you want to pay by your own. For example, here in Stavanger area, we don't have a speech therapist where we could go to.
Hmm.
It's probably different in Oslo, but here
Yeah,
it's
but they
impossible.
didn't recommend it. We had a logoped who came to evaluate my son at school because he goes in a special group with special education program the school created, but the logoped said that actually doesn't need. But we had also to pay on private. For 1 year, I had the logoped from Romania working online until he got a little bit tired and then he didn't want to follow up. And I said, okay, we make a break. But I noticed that after 1 year, he improved a little bit the speech. He started to create also sentences with more words, like from 2, 3 words. He now can go also to
Mm.
beyond 5, 7. So it helps, but also here, mm, unless I probably have to pay also on private, and it's much expensive than if I pay to a Romanian
Mm.
specialist, even if I
Mm.
have to work online. So I tried also to find an alternative that was not extremely expensive because I'm a single provider and it's only one salary for many things.
Yeah, I actually forgot to mention we used Barna's Brock Center in Horten. I don't know if you heard about it, but because Lilia is our daughter's name is Lilia. She's very hypotone in her mouth muscles. She was hypotone as a baby because she couldn't roll over, but it's also hypotone in her mouth. So her speech is also still a little bit unclear. But what helped her was this talk tool method. And they teach it in the Barnes Brock Center in Horten. And we traveled there one time and got an appointment there, and she got an examination, and we got some exercises home. And then later I did 2 webinars with a logoped in the Barnes Brock Center, where she would teach other parents, but also other logopeds how to use the different tools.
Hmm.
And this was very helpful. And we do, and this is also something we do still every day. So these are things like there are some biting blocks where they bite on or they blow bubbles, um, or there's a massage brush in your face. I think they do it also in kindergarten. They go to kindergartens and do that nowadays also there
We
in
did
a few
with the logoped,
counties.
there were a lot of exercises, expressional with the face,
Yeah.
imitating animals and sounds and moving a lot in different ways, the tongue and
Mm.
also the face. And yeah, so this was, and also another thing that my son also likes is to watch, for example, short fairy tales on YouTube, and from time to time stop and ask question and invite him to answer about what's happening in the fairy tale.
Mm.
And this is more entertaining because it's also a little bit interactive, right?
Mm.
So yeah, I think there are different approaches, and
Yeah, at the moment, I was recommended by the Doman Institute to use Gemini. It's an internet program. Unfortunately, it's in English,
yeah,
but it is quite nice to use in the higher levels because they, if you like also to learn a new language, maybe
yeah,
they
it's good.
teach how
Yeah,
to.
for English, yes. Um, yeah. So practically, my big disappointment is that the system should provide for this, for these special cases, more alternatives, and it doesn't seem that either has them or doesn't want to provide. I don't know what is the reason, but I also meet a lot of resistance from the educational system and from the school to actually invest more time and more in this kind of resources, and maybe even offer more practices or more workshops for their own educators, because they have special education, of course, they are working in this area. But if I try to bring a different perspective, even when I started to speak about Anat Paniel, when I discovered it, and also other methods, now there is this Doman that I want to know more about. I find a lot of suspicion and a lot of distance, like, well, what is this? So we don't work with this, like not so much receptivity. And I don't understand why.
Mhm.
Either because maybe it's not officially 100% accepted in Norway to say like that, but in other country, I mean, I've heard it's people use it, and or either because I don't know, they think it's not efficient enough. I don't know. Um, but this is one limitation and one of the, let's call it, difficulties, because there is already the difficulty we have to face as parents, trying to figure out how to support our children, and then the difficulty to ask for help and actually receive the help that our child needs. And um, yeah, what we can do is actually speak about it, and is what one of the reasons I launched this podcast last year, to try to bring new perspectives, and also parents speaking about their own situations, and maybe eventually at a certain point the system also will open more the ears and the eyes, and
Mm.
understand that we are not those who want to go against them, or just the crazy people or desperate people or whatever they
Yeah.
want to label us, but we are actually able to collaborate and propose new approaches. And I would like you, we still have maybe a few minutes. I would like to know if you have any advice or any piece of uh, awareness raising, to call it like that, from your side, from your experience with your daughter, and or searching for clues and solutions to support her. Would you be able to give some good advice in general for parents in similar situations and for mothers in specific?
Um, One advice is for me is that the parents, especially maybe, yeah, the parents know their child best. So I think it's always because the parents are so close to the child and they have the highest interest in that the child improves. I think it is good that if parents really involve also in the therapy, and that it is not only in the kindergarten or in school, that they rely on that they will do their job. Um, and then I would encourage them to look outside the box, not to trust the health system. So because there are other possibilities, and there's not one solution for every child.
Mm.
And probably you have to try out several methods, but it is possible. Even such a severe child as my child has improved, and so but it costs time. It's not like it's a wonder product.
Yeah, it
And
doesn't come by
you
night.
have
You
to
need to
invest
invest
your
time
time and
and money and energy.
money. Yeah,
Yes.
and for of course if I mean, with the Doman method, the Norwegian state is really great. I'm very grateful that we could do that in Norway. It is not possible in Germany, for example.
Mm.
Um, but they don't recommend it. So
Yeah.
because they are suspicious, as you say.
Mm.
Um,
But there is a law, an article you mentioned, where it's written that actually the state would support this kind of treatment.
yeah, yes, yes.
It's weird enough that they don't provide this like in a mainstream information channel because it should be. So
Yeah, it
people
should be.
can
And then, for
decide.
example, Denmark is very is also they have a lot of methods which they actually support much more than Norway. They also support Doman method, but also diff tomatis. It's really a lot of things like Anat Banyel. And
Yes.
Danish
We
families
have
can
two
train a lot.
practitioners of Anat Baniel in Norway, and I interview one of them. The first episode for this podcast was with Anne from, we actually had 6 sessions with her now in December for my son.
Hmm.
And I'm planning to continue also because I trust this method too. Of course, it's not that with one method or one session of one method, everything resolves. You have to
Mm.
keep working. The only problem is that she's there and we are here in Oslo, so we are waiting if she can come to Oslo. Would be very
Yeah.
to, because I cannot go there every month. It's not economically sustainable for me.
Mm.
But if we find a compromise, like once we come, she comes here, and once we go there, maybe there will be a solution. Would be good to have more practitioners of all these methods, but many of these methods, surprisingly enough, they come from America. And I
Yeah.
was thinking that one way to benefit more would be to bring them and the training they offer to Norway or to Europe. I'm not sure if Doman method is known in other countries than those that you mentioned, but for example, in Romania, there is a different method that's very famous that is used for autism, but I didn't see any practitioner there for Anat Baniel. So
Hmm.
it would be actually interesting to have the training performed in Europe for people that live in Europe and need to access it. Or we move to America, which is expensive probably, and we have the possibility there to test more because there also too much more research in this area of
Yeah.
autism.
Yes. Mm.
From what I saw and my knowledge also in terms of research here in Norway, it's very little, and it's mostly on new methods for the education and for improving the behavior and maybe the cognitive functions. But for example, I've never heard about nutrition. There is like a big taboo because the food quality in Norway also is not very high from my experience. I
Mm.
already lived in other countries where food is much more healthier and better. So there are many taboos related with the approach that is the, let's call it mainstream or official, and I don't understand why. Because
Mm.
there is many research already around nervous system, how nervous system works, how can the
Yeah.
performance of nervous system can improve the quality of life. There is a lot of research around the different relationships between brain and cognitive functions improvement and the quality of nutrition and the biome that the gut contains, you know. So there are many specialists speaking about this, but still in several situations or in different countries, it feels like we cannot touch this area, we cannot speak about it, and I don't understand
Mm-hmm.
why. And yes, we are almost approaching the end of this interview. I'm very happy that you came to speak about our story. And before we end, I will still ask you a question. If you will have to face, would you have to face again this kind of challenge in your life? What would you change in your approach or in way of thinking this? Or is anything that you might have like a second thought of, or a regret that you might want to do something different, knowing your
That's an interesting
experience?
question. Mm. I mean, I regretted that I started so late with the Doman method, or with actually starting to investigate my own methods. So I probably would start earlier then.
Which age you had when you started?
4 years.
4 years. So you recommend much earlier.
Yeah, I would recommend earlier.
Mm.
Um, yeah, what? I don't know. I mean, regarding, for example, the siblings, I think it would have been nice to have some BPA, like assistant at home,
Mm.
who could, so that we could take her sisters out for a cinema or something like that,
Mm.
to have more time just with them.
Mm. But you
Um,
didn't have access to it,
hmm?
or you didn't know about it, or you
We,
didn't
we
have
we didn't
access.
know at that time. We didn't know about it. We haven't been informed about anything when she was young. We didn't even had a special stool, a chair when she was 1 year old, because we didn't know that we could apply for that,
Okay.
that it existed, and physiotherapists where we were, they didn't prescribe it. That, so we were left alone the first years very much.
Mm.
And also, there should have been a sibling group in our county,
Mm.
and I contacted them, and then they said, no, it's not a big. There's nobody's interested in it. We don't have this group actually. It
Mm.
was just on a prospect.
Mm.
It was just an advertisement that they had it. But nowadays, of course, with Facebook and so on, maybe it's easier
Connect.
to connect with each other. When we found all these Norwegian Facebook groups, our children were so old already that they were not interested in connecting with some strange siblings from other children whom they don't know, you know. But if they would have been younger, like 4, 5, 6 years in the beginning, then probably it would have been easier for them to connect to other siblings.
Mm.
But
Yes.
yeah, so this is something I regret, maybe that we had not so much time for them,
Mm.
and because we also had no family.
Mm.
But on the other hand, because I was homeschooling and we did the program, actually, I was always at home for them when they came home from school, so that was nice for them too.
Yes. Well, when we are in this kind of situation, the best thing that we can figure out is to create our own system. And I
Yeah.
understand very well your struggle, because I also don't have family and I'm single parent, so I don't even have a husband or partner to help me with daily life tasks. And I need to work full time. I cannot afford to be on a part time, although I would practically need it. And I relate very much with the difficulty and with understanding actually how much it weighs on our own energy and resources. But on the other hand, all these difficulties motivated me to search for alternatives, try. My son also started music therapy, but then we had to end. I thought I took him to riding horses, and I will continue when they will create new courses and possibilities. I took him to therapies because I'm a therapist myself and I work with trauma therapy, and he worked himself on his intention. So there are many possibilities to work. Of course, it depends a lot of the degree of autonomy and understanding the child has, and every child situation is different, of course. But I mean, if you open yourself and you understand the system doesn't give me information, uh, here I don't have system of support, and I create my own. This is my how to say, motivation, because I know I'm the mother, I know my son, and I know I need it.
Yeah.
Until I find something that really works, I will test different things, and is what I've been doing for several years. And of course, I notice improvements. Of course, again, my son is in a different level of difficulty, maybe less severe than your daughter. But it's like, I'm used to say that if there is no one there and no one gives me a hope or miracle, then I become the miracle.
Yeah.
And before we end, do you have anything else that you would like to speak about? Just a last remark or something that you think you would like to speak to other people, other parents?
No, I don't think so. I think I've said almost
Covered,
everything.
yeah,
Yeah.
many topics. Thank you so much, Suzanne. It was very interesting to talk to you. I'm very happy you accepted to be my guest. Uh, it will be available soon, this episode, probably in February. I'm usually launching maximum 2 episodes per month because, as I said, I'm busy and I have a special needs kid and single parent. My resource of time, energy are limited. But I'm confident that the message that you brought today and your approach will be able to reach many people that will need it. And stay tuned. Keep watching the next episodes that will come in this year, 2025. I'm also bringing the guest from Doman method and also other methods I found around that can contribute to increasing the well-being and health state and improve the cognitive and behavioral performance of our children in case they are in the spectrum or they have some disability. And subscribe to the channel. In this way, you are notified about new content and you help me also increase visibility. And share this interview and other interviews in your community because maybe someone might need to hear what we have to say and what we need, what we wish to share with you. Thank you again for listening us today and see you to the next episode. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.